Hello and welcome to the BeeRPad. Joining me always is my excellent co-host, excellent friend, Marcus Beer. And we
Doing
have
what
a
now?
special guest today, another excellent friend, excellent person, the incredible Paul Semel. Say hello, Paul.
Hello, Paul.
Thank you. That's exactly the answer I was looking for.
All right, and our excellent co-host Raymond. What's going on with you, my friend?
Well, I'm going to have you guys do the heavy lifting in today's Diablo 4 episode because I'm slightly a mess, but I won't get into too many details. But guys, if you're watching live or if you're watching on the replay, if you believe in God, if you believe in a higher power, if you believe in vibe, energy, any of that stuff, please send some positive thoughts towards my brother in Hawaii. He could really use them right now. But enough about that. Today we're talking about Diablo 4 from our fine friends at Blizzard Entertainment. Before we get into
really
4,
our fine friends.
they were at one point.
Really our fine friends anymore. I mean, look, we got a lot of respect for the individuals who work there, but there are some decisions that have been made that are like, and then they are part of the crap division empire. So
did you see that latest shit for BlizzCon and what they're going to charge for the better access for that?
What?
It's like $800 compared to like $300.
Like I don't. What you do? You get a blowjob from Mike Moham or something? Does he cup the balls as well? Or not obviously a blowjob. I mean, whatever your oral preference, Blizzard will give it.
Wait, weren't you chiding me last episode that this is a family show?
This has never been a family show unless it's the Addams Family.
Also, is $500 a good blowjob? I don't know what fair market value is these days, but
I love that he added these days. It's like, back in the day when I was paying for it, in
the 80s,
you could get a blowjob, you could get a new suit, a house in the country, 4 cars, a crab dinner, and a blowjob, and still have change from 50 cents. Carlos, this is not for families, so love you, brother, but sorry, this is not family-friendly entertainment. This is 3 very old, very grown men, children, and we are here. We're going to talk about Blizzard, so I'm going to take the lead because Raymondo, you need to take it slow, and our thoughts are 100% with your brother. I know what it's like, what he's going through. My wife knows what you're going through, so nothing but love to you and your family, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
Positive thought helped me so much through my various medical heart-related maladies and is still helping with regards to my ongoing one. So yes, everybody, please, if you believe in God, Yahweh, Santa, Homer Simpson, or the power of the great fart, just put it out there. There is good vibes. Send it to, what's your brother's name?
Reggie.
So there you go. Let's get Reggie ready to rock. All right, let's talk about Blizzard. Let's talk about Diablo 4. It is indeed the 4th entry in the series. They're very clever with the numbering system. It's been a whole decade since Diablo 3. Can you believe it? We were younger, svelter. Some of us hadn't had 3 life-threatening events happen. Paul still didn't have any hair. Ray's hair was not blue.
True.
And it's been 10 years since Diablo 3, and Diablo 3 was one of those ones that you either loved it because they took things off in a new direction, or you hated it because it wasn't like Diablo 2. For me, it was certainly the most accessible of the Diablos. Now I've played all 4. I bought the was it the battle chests or whatever they call them for Diablo 1 and 2 so many times because I kept on losing the freaking discs. So I had those, but I obviously spent most of the time playing Diablo 3 over the years, just going back to it, doing the season pass stuff. And it was actually very easy to get into and very easy to change up your characters and really enjoyable to go back and revisit your characters. And now we've come to 4 and we're hit by the same conundrum. How do you say conundrum? Conundrum. That's the word I was looking for. Again, because people who have maybe only played Diablo 3 are now looking at Diablo 4 and saying, oh, it's a bit dark, isn't it? It's a bit bland, isn't it? What are they doing with this, isn't it? And then not realizing that it's perhaps gone back a little to the days of Diablo. There. See, Paul's impressed. He's a wordsmith, and even he's impressed by Diablo, because this is Diablo in years of anyway.
Speaking of Paul,
well, I'll get to Paul in a second.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of like putting this out there. I'm setting up the conversation. You just relax, okay? You're upset. Your brother's going to be fine. Liverpool have signed another great player today. I understand. You're terrified. It's okay. We are coming. So,
ew. I don't want to know when you're coming.
You should watch the show Torchwood Children of Earth. It's a great sci-fi miniseries. Quite scary in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, it's funny that people are like, with this one, there's a whole, it's the same division but different that we got with Diablo 3 10 years ago. So Paul's looking very thinking, because, that's what he is. He's a very thinking kind of person. And so I'm going to start off with Paul. What's your top-down or your top layer reaction to Diablo 4? Did it ring your bell?
So
ring my bell. Sorry.
You can ring my... Sorry. My history with the series is, I don't honestly remember if I played the first two. I feel like I must have. I just don't remember it.
Yeah.
But I played.
I don't think they let you have a computer to play video games. If you go to Warcraft, Diablo,
and let's go.
WoW.
If we can go Whoopi Goldberg. Those games came out on Mac.
Yes,
but the Mac is to gaming what my ass is to beauty. And I'll let you figure that out.
I don't want to figure
flat and uninspiring landscape. So yeah. I'm sorry, Whoopi Goldberg. Get a proper gaming machine, lady. You're a wonderful, wonderful actress, but no.
Yeah, well,
wife uses Mac all the time, and I berate her for it. Anyway. Go on. All right.
So for me, it kind of started like I said, I don't really remember them, but I remember 3 because I played the heck out of 3. I played it at least 3 times just on the Nintendo Switch, for crying out loud. I also.
Why is he on this show on the fucking Switch?
It was fun on the Switch.
The actual butthole of glory. I mean, come on.
All
right,
Switch,
Ray, what are you playing it on?
Now?
4?
PS5.
I'm playing on PS5 as well.
All right. You know what? This podcast, this show needs to be just me because I'm sorry. Diablo is not a console game. I'm sorry. Yes, it's released on the consoles, and it's a bunch of bollocks that it's not. That people are paying it on the consoles. It's PC first and foremost. I'm playing it on a PC. That's the way it's meant to be. That's the way the purists are meant to be playing it, not on these Johnny-come-lately fly-by-night consoles, and especially not the fucking Switch. Thankfully, it's not out on the Switch, which is great. But
I actually think they modified it really well for consoles. I think it actually for 3. I think
but
the
problem is you can see the modifications they've done for console because they're all over the fucking PC version.
Yes,
they have dumbed down the PC version exponentially because we have to look after the special people who can only play this on console.
I think that's a really funny thing to say because there's things that I see in the console version and I'm like, why is that there? Oh, it's because it's a PC game.
No,
there's a clock in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. There's a clock.
Oh, clock.
Clock, as in a clock or a frame rate clock.
As in a clock, not you've been on playing for 8 hours, you should take a break clock. It's 5:35 in the morning clock. Like, why?
That's not in the PC version, you plum.
Wait, that's not?
It's not. No, it's not in the PC version, you bellend.
That's even weirder. That makes it even weirder. Why is it in the console
because
version?
Because apparently if you're on a PlayStation 5, you gotta go, I can't tell the time, I can't crack my head to look at a clock now. No, it's not.
I don't even think there's an option to turn the clock off.
I don't know. Maybe
that's weird. That's really weird.
Very, very strange. But all right, I'm personally offended that you're both playing it on PlayStation. But
anyway, yeah, I played the hell out of 3. I played the hell out of the mobile game. I love the mobile game, and yeah. So now we have 4.
So what do you feel about 4? I asked you what's your opinion on 4, and you talked about everything else.
Okay, first of all, as somebody who, I did actually at some point go back and play the remake of 2 that came out like maybe 6 months ago.
Oh,
Didn't
right,
like
right.
it at all. It felt very dated to me. Didn't like it at all.
Well, it is. I mean, that's an old game. The roots
right,
are
but like, look, there's 2 schools of thought when it comes to remakes of old games. Do you update them or do you not update them? And that one they didn't update, and because of that, it didn't work as well for me. Because again, 3 is the standard for as far as I'm concerned. Whereas, like Resident Evil 4, where they updated, I was like very happy about that. Anyway,
okay.
So 4, I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm loving it as much as I loved 3. I get the it's dark thing, but okay, whatever. I don't care about that. It doesn't. There's little incremental changes that they made, but nothing like I find the sort of like schism you talked about, Marcus, to be a little weird, because I'm like, it's not nearly as big a jump from 3 as 3 was from 2.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with you. And I mean, like I said, I'm just basing this on the conversations I've seen for the last month since since it went into that 6-day early access or 4-day early access, whatever it was, that I've seen these people, and they're literally, nobody is on the fence. Nobody's getting splinters in the bum. They're one side or the other of this particular conversation. And so I'm just curious as to,
Well, there is this, I have noticed that there is this sort of weird thing in gaming where people don't want stuff to be too dark or too bleak. It's one of the
reasons, because our reality is so dark and so bleak.
But it actually predates this. I mean, like, it's one of the reasons why, like, you'll play like a game like Fallout and there's like music, but not, I don't mean like music playing on a radio. I mean like background music. And it's because it cuts down on the sort of darkness and the bleakness and the solitariness of it, which is weird to me, because I'm like, if I'm playing a post-apocalyptic game or a game in which I'm like a warrior in a dark realm, like I want it to be bleak. I want it to be dark. So
you don't want Wham playing in the background?
No.
Okay.
No.
I don't want your Negro.
I mean, there would be something funny about that in a weird juxtaposition
if you
way.
Could raise
like,
George Michael, that would be awesome.
I'd play that.
You haven't got the George Michael experience.
But there is this weird thing in our culture where people really don't like. I remember, do you guys ever see the first Pet Sematary movie?
Oh my God, yes.
I did, but I
with
don't
Fred
remember
Gwynn.
Anything about it.
Like
okay.
2,000 years ago, wasn't it?
So the end of that movie is very, very intense, except in the middle of it, there's a dumb joke. And I remember my friend Steve, who's a horror aficionado, being like, they completely ruined this. They were like, they had this amazing tense ending to this movie and they blew it with a joke. And like, but we all knew the reason they did that is because people didn't want there to be a tense moment. They wanted the tenseness to be undercut, and so it wasn't so bleak. So anyway, that's just me.
Okay, that's valid points. Valid points. I do think the darkness thing is definitely it is noticeable, because I think it can literally come down to the color palette, because the color palette on the last one, on Diablo 3, was that little bit brighter. I mean, there was more vivid reds, especially when it came to destroying things. There was more blood, more viscera, more gore. Even on the mobile version, I think on the I played it on the iPad, and I think that's even a little brighter. But I take your point about the music. Then music is always such a key part of of any sort of game or movie experience or whatever. Ray, what do you think? Where are you from? Where are you about on Diablo 5 on console?
Well, the Diablo I played the most was 2, just because at the time that's what a lot of my friends were playing.
Would you play it on the Game Boy?
No, it was all PC.
Thank God for that.
3, I a lot of people had problems with the microtransactions in 3 initially. I liked it, but how Paul was just saying that it felt like a big jump from 2 to 3. It didn't capture what I loved about 2, but I enjoyed it in its own way. But so far I'm liking 3 better than 4. I'm having fine with 4. I've been running into a lot of technical issues. You guys have both played more than me, but I've been stuck waiting for online activation and all that more than a few times. And sometimes it just makes me want to not try the game again, and I'll go back to playing Switch with my nephew or something. But yeah,
You mean like you've been having like login errors?
Login errors.
Getting on?
Yeah.
There's been login errors practically every weekend. Last weekend in particular, the one just gone, or the one a week ago, in fact, they suffered a DDoS.
Yeah.
And people have had, I mean, obviously, once it got out of the initial if you pre-ordered it, you got your X amount of days of access. When it went to general admission, if you will, the first week was an absolute fucking nightmare. It took...
That was bad.
Yeah.
I didn't have any problems.
Really?
I've had very few problems logging in.
It would kick you and then just not let you back in. You're in a queue. But I was playing. I don't care. I'm putting you in a queue. So yeah, that's been very, very prevalent. And it's obviously gotten a lot better with the exception of last week. But I mean, you raise a valid point. And as you can see from what I have written right there, there have been a lot of people, because I just want to spin off this tangent because it's a very important one to me as far as I'm concerned. I've seen a lot of people who are playing in like nightmare mode, who are playing with characters that they've managed to level to 90, 100, and they are getting a boot or a disconnect, whatever, and their character permadeaths after, God knows how long it's taken to level them up. And they could be just replaying the quests all over again. It just goes to show to me that you don't need always online in Diablo. If you want to crossplay, because every time I jump in, it says, "Oh, you're in crossplay." People from other systems may make join in your game, and I laugh at that. I do. But if you're playing single player, just play single player. It doesn't need to be online. It can be offline. If you want to click on an option to then join co-op. I'll go online while you're in there. That's great and dandy. Feel free to do it. Maybe it's a button press or whatever. But I really don't want to have to connect to fucking Battle.net every time I want to play Diablo 4. And look, it's been the same thing with Diablo 3, and everyone's going to say, "Well, it's like that with World of Warcraft. It's like this," and I understand, but it doesn't make any difference to me because it still feels wrong to me. To have any game that has a single player component make you connect to a server on a permanent basis is quite ridiculous. I bought it. Let me play it whenever the fuck I want. What happens if Activision Blizzard go tits up tomorrow and all their servers get shut down? Every single one of their single player games are gone. Boom. I know it's not going to happen. We know this, but and it's just the issues that come along with it. And I know, like I actually had some arguments with people who are like, "Well, why are you buying this game and complaining about it if you knew there's an always online?" Well, I want to play it. I've played the first 3, a lot. I've enjoyed them. I had issues with always on in the first one, in the third one, and I have always on issues with the same thing here. It doesn't mean that I can't be upset about it because I'm expressing an opinion. So, and to that person, fuck off. You're an idiot. So there you go. Ray, you were going to say.
Isn't that a publisher side decision though? Because they're
totally a publisher side. It's Activision Blizzard,
right?
I mean, it is Craftivision Blizzard. It's what's known in the industry as the Kotick disease. Whatever he touches, he turns into a disease. The man's a fetid carbuncle on the asshole of video games everywhere. And honestly, on a side rant, if the Activision Blizzard buyout comes through, I hope it happens so that Kotick's out of the games industry. I hate that he's going to get a shit ton of money for it. So all I can hope is that, and this might be a little controversial, but I hope he walks out after signing that thing with his fat $100 million check or whatever, and he gets hit by a fucking truck.
Oh, damn.
The man's been a boil on video games, a pox, if you will, for the last 20 years. And it's just obscene. Obviously, I'll take that back. I don't wish him dead or anything like that, but I do wish him ill. I wish him to develop a nasty rash. And that's as far as it goes. Or
Curious,
some bankruptcy.
Have either of you met him in person? Because he actually, in one-on-one interactions, he's actually quite warm and charming. And
he's a fucking douchebag. And unfortunately, I know somebody who knows him very well, and told me. I've been told stories anyway, but yes, I'm sure he's a fucking douchebag. And look, one-on-one interaction with a member of the media, it's called PR shtick.
Of course,
I mean, I'm sure Hitler gave great interviews. Or when Hitler had his fucking E3 mixers, he was like, "Oh, come on in, Ray, we're good. You're not Jewish, okay, but we'll be fine. Let's break open the vault
and leave your friend Paul outside."
Exactly.
My interactions with Hitler at E3 were just terrible.
I know, he was a bit of a wanker, wasn't he? We're talking about Steve Hitler, of course, the famous UI program.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about anybody else.
But I mean, I don't expect anyone who's made that much money for that many people to be, what we would call a good guy. Because it just
he's made that much money, one for himself and two for a bunch of other people who have no right making that much money. Yeah, scumbags, all of them. I'm a socialist.
E3
makes the people. Take them all down.
Remember when those were a thing, guys?
Anyway, all right, back to the game. And Ray, you did raise something that I want to talk about as well.
Yeah.
And this was one of the more disconcerting things that you buy the game, you pre-order it, you pay for perhaps the mega version, and you get your access. You boot up, and you're like, "Oh, what's this store thing?" You click on it, and you're like, "Oh, look at all those things there. How do I get the coin? Oh, I have to give you another 30, 40, 60 bucks, even though I've given you 60, 80, 100 bucks already. Doesn't even come with it. None of those the extra versions don't come with anything to let you buy a couple of suits. That again is everything that's wrong with video games. That this industry as we know it right now, this bullshit that you can't buy a game and play it day one, and it's not just Activision Blizzard. 'Tis Warner Brothers, 'tis Ubisoft, 'tis Electronic Arts, 'tis Bethesda. 'Tis a disease running through that if you see a cool suit of armor or something, or a way to style your look and you want to get it, there's no way in game to grind that and get to that thing. You have to put down more money. And if you're charging 60, 70, 80 or $100, 120, 200 in some cases, you should be ponying up some shit, or at least open a pathway for people to be able to grind for that coin.
Or you can go to KFC and get the Diablo chicken sandwich.
I have a heart condition.
You don't have to eat it. You just have to get
KFC that actually put me in the hospital in the first place. But no, I mean, again, this is again what's wrong with rampant commercialism. And
okay, but I want to come to a counterpoint on this.
Well,
what's the point? Okay, fine. So I understand your point that especially if you buy like the special edition, they should give you a couple of silver coins so you can buy things. I don't even know what the point of them is. Your character on screen is tiny. You literally see the person when you're loading the game at first for like 2 seconds. Like who cares? They're basically if they're wearing like a purple outfit or not.
They are suckers. People who are playing, but. Again, much like the EA FIFA loot boxes,
people buy them.
They are for fucking suckers, and you can buy them. And at the end of the day, this is part of gouging people. Kids getting mom and dad's. It's like the Apple Store purchases or the Fortnite bucks or whatever. Somebody is going to go nuts, buy a bunch of stuff, and end up in fucking debt because they're idiots, and that's the way it goes. It appeals to stupid people. It appeals to completionists, and it's a way to additionally fund it's like, oh, the money's going to fund the game. No, the money's funding the back pockets of the shareholders. We talked about this before. There is no way that the graphics team who are creating these cosmetic outfits are getting bonuses for them. They're not getting any extra money at all. They are getting, and probably, in fact, fuck all. And it's probably a case of, oh, you've done all this during the build-up. Right, you can fuck off. No, we're going to sell your stuff and you can go look for another job, because that's the way the industry's gone. And this is what's inherently wrong with the games industry.
I don't know. To my mind, I don't see the point in getting even concerned with this, because it's not like
every fucking game, dude.
Yeah,
and it's just right there in your face from day one.
Matter. I mean, this is the thing. This is, it's like we've gotten past, thankfully, the thing where you can actually buy valuable things for real money. Like, it's now just all nonsense aesthetic things.
In some games.
Okay, in most games I've played, I literally never even look at the store except once to give it a cursory. Oh, okay. I don't have any money. I don't need any of this. Buy. It doesn't,
it's just another fucking rampant cash grab. And it's not like the cost of the games is coming down. They'll say, well, it cost us X amount of billions of dollars to make the game. Well, great. It's also the the fastest selling game in your history. You were charging, again, above and beyond what you used to charge before. How about you take the fucking shareholders out of the picture there? And also look at releasing more than one game every fucking decade.
See, I understand both of your points, and I think there's validity to both your stances. I love the idea that Marcus mentioned that this would be great if it went to developer bonuses. That I'd be all for that. And I'm with Paul in that these things don't matter to me. Our friend Shane Bettenhausen, we both play Pokemon Go, and he buys stickers that you can attach to gifts he send to people. He buys the different avatar clothing, and I could not give a shit about those kinds of features in any game. It just doesn't, if there's a free avatar item or clothing, sure, but I don't care. But I understand it makes some people happy though, and if they want to buy it, I don't begrudge them for it.
Yeah, unfortunately, if it was going back into the dev team, fair enough, but it's not.
That'd be awesome.
I agree with that.
It's going into the back pockets of the people who don't need the fucking thing. It's
Phil
nice
Fish
to see you, Alpha Wolf Slayer. It's nice to see you. I'm streaming this on my YouTube channel as well now, and on my Twitter. So thank you to everybody who's tuning in. This is what I do now with Ray. I haven't done anything on my YouTube channel in a while, but now I can actually add this stream to that one. So nice to see y'all.
But you should subscribe, follow, and subscribe to the BeeRPad.
The BeeRPad, yeah. This is what we do every week or so, or sometimes every 2 weeks. But we're talking about Diablo IV. And we're talking about I'm being my usual militant asshole self, and Paul's being his very balanced self, as is Raymond. So they're basically I'm the iceberg. They're the Titanic, but it's like two Titanics because they're kind of balancing out my icebergness.
No, I'm the guy who didn't get on the Titanic because I don't care.
I thought Paul would be the iceberg because he's Jewish.
I had a mouthful of water when you said that.
That was so worth it. We've got some bits of housekeeping. Happy Canada Day and happy July 4th weekend.
You colonials. No, happy 4th of July, Independence Day to my American chums.
And Canada Day.
And happy Canada Day to my fellow Commonwealthers. But I will say to my American chums, when you say, haha, you are British, therefore you lost the War of Independence. How does it feel? Suck it.
Welsh.
And I will turn around and say to you, you beat the English. I am Welsh. The Welsh, the Scottish, and the Irish were in the pub because we didn't give a shit. Once you beat the English, we thought, you know what, we'll hang out with you a bit more. And that's why we're all over here now. So, we love you. We're here. We love most of you. We love about 80% of you.
Question
20% who are fucking wackadoodle who can just go live in the fucking moon as far as I'm concerned.
Question, Marcus. Who is Phil Fish?
You're not making me do this. You don't know who Phil Fish is.
No. Do I not? Should I? I'm gonna Google him now.
Okay, this is something I did not want to hear. I mean, this is just over a decade old. Yes. So let's not talk about that. Let's not drag that into things. And I wish the gentleman nothing but good thoughts. I hope he's well, and I hope he's happy in whatever he's doing, whether it be game development or whatever. More power to him. That's long gone. I am a different person today. I would like to think.
When someone says he lost, I automatically thought of sports. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, please let's not reignite this today.
We will not.
I wish Phil Fifth nothing but good things. I hope he's happy at whatever he's doing, and I hope he's successful. So anyway, moving on.
Back to the always online thing.
Yes.
I had a point to make. Okay.
You have Paul has a point, everybody. Welcome to the part of the show we call Paul Point.
Okay. I have a counterpoint.
No. I want you to point.
Okay.
Literally point. Okay.
There you go. Paul's point, everybody. Carry on.
Okay. First of all, I completely agree. There's no reason why this game has to be online all the time. And that is a pet peeve of mine, is when a game.
But you know the reason, though. It's for.
Well, I know
Raymond.
I know yes, there's a reason financially, but I'm saying there's no gameplay reason.
Yes.
And it's a pet peeve of mine whenever you have a game that is made for co-op, and you could play it single player like The Division, when you can just as easily make a game single player that can also be played co-op like Borderlands. Especially given that, a game like Diablo and The Division, there's nothing in those games that screams this has to be played with other people, either narratively or gameplay-wise. That said, of all the games that are online all the time, I find that Diablo 4 makes it somewhat easier than almost all of them to get around certain things. One thing is you have difficulties, which is always something that gets sacrificed in these games. And I like that there are various difficulties for people who want more challenge or people who want less challenge. The other thing that is always a pain in the ass for me is the inability to pause. Because unlike some people, I sometimes use the restroom. I sometimes get calls from my elderly mother. I sometimes just want to take a break.
But also, we are men of a certain age. We need to go to the bathroom a little more so than you youngsters. And we know we are not whizzing into a bottle of Mountain Dew.
No.
Even though it would improve the taste vastly.
Yes.
By the way, our new sponsor, Mountain Dew Piss.
Yes.
Oh, aspartame kills you now.
Apparently,
yes. The WHO has declared that, or they will declare that aspartame.
You know why? It gives you cancer. And what did I drink for 10 years solid prior to my heart attack? I was having like a Diet Coke 2 or 3 times a day.
I'm like, Scotch.
I'm still drinking whiskey, but there is nothing. No, I mean, I'd go to work and I'd have can of Diet Coke with my breakfast, couple for lunch, and then, oh, look at me. I got cancer. And no history of it in my family. So there you go. Aspartame will kill you. But let's get back to Paul's point.
Right. But the game does have a convenient workaround, which is that at any point, almost any point, I should say, you can hit a button and immediately transport yourself back to town and into a safe zone.
Without having to use scrolls, which is absolutely a thumbs up, excellent way to do it, because carrying all those fucking scrolls, remember having to carry, you have the scroll of town portal and the scroll of identification, and they've done away with the scrolls. No scrolls. We're a scrollless environment. They're saving the trees.
Right, which is great but here's the thing, because not only does it basically give you a way to pause the game if your mom calls, it also makes this way easier to deal with as a loot game where you get a lot of loot, which is another thing that is always a thing with me. Like, dealing with loot in this game is way easier than in so many other games, because you can, you have like a pretty decent sized, thing. It's really easy just to go click, 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 click. You're all junk. And then you just pop back to town, sell it, just, scavenge it, whatever you want. Just makes it so much easier than the Borderlands games or half a dozen other games like this.
Yeah, that is a pet peeve with some RPGs in general, that you spend way too much time on inventory management, which is just not fun.
Yeah,
I will look. I totally agree with you. They've made it more streamlined. I suppose you have to for people who play on console. Bless. And yes,
I would think that would be a problem on PC anyway. Also,
well, again, look, I was being facetious, but that's where the "oh bless" came in. I was being facetious, and it is actually a great way to do it. But going back to counterpointing your counterpoint, the lack of a pause button because you're always online. You can be in a dungeon, loaded down with loot, and you do the town hall thing. The town hall. You teleport back to town. You unload everything, and you're heading back to this dungeon, and you get a disconnect. Your internet goes out, or boom, you've lost that dungeon. You could be literally just going into before that last boss battle in the dungeon to go and get some more potions to clear out your loot, because maybe you got a bunch of stuff you want to get rid of or upgrade, or you got a bunch of jewels for some fucking reason. We need a jewel bag, Blizzard. We definitely need a jewel bag, and apparently one is coming, which is great. But without that pause button or the fact that it's always online, it just makes it impossible to really go back to a dungeon. And I know that's what they did in Diablo 3, and just because they did it in Diablo 3 doesn't make it a great gameplay decision. And that's why, again, I would love to see an offline mode. Now, their argument is, oh, cheaters, people will be cheating and this, that, and the other. Well, this is what you do. You have a version check. When you boot up the game, you go online to check it or whatever. If you're playing the single player, you play your version, boom, boom, boom. And then if you want to go online, it checks your code. It checks for trainers. It checks for X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And if you have that naughty shit in there, not only does it stop you from playing, it shuts down your account, uninstalls the game, and gives you a blue screen of death.
That's hard. That's hard.
Which I think would be absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to say, I haven't actually shared my thoughts on the game yet. You gentlemen have obviously provided some very interesting points. I will say, hello, King N64 1994. Nice of you to join us. Hello to all the crew who are joining from my YouTube channel. Much love to you. This is where I live now with Ray and sometimes Paul, who pops in with milk and cookies for us all. So my thoughts on Diablo 4.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so I bought the pre-order because I wanted that extra couple of days to crack on with it, because I knew there was going to be, a little bit of traffic jam down the line. And initially I was like, okay, this is fun. I'm playing Necro. I spent sort of like 4 days solid playing the game, just doing lots of side checks, side quests, doing the dungeons, finding the what's the name? Statues of Thingamy. What's the name?
The bad guy.
No, who's the bad girl in it? What's her name? The boss.
Lilith.
Lilith. The statues of Lilith. And see, this is one of my problems. Story.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about the story. The story is.
I never.
Yeah. It's been, in the past, it's been interesting. I've enjoyed reading it. This time, for some reason, I'm so fucking checked out. I can't even remember that Lilith was the name of the bad guy, even though Lilith is also in the Marvel RPG that we got last year.
Was it the writing that you didn't like about the story, or you just didn't care?
I just think the characters are very one-dimensional, and we're also talking about Blizzard, where we're talking about Diablo here, so I know we're not talking about deep in depth, but it just seems like lather, rinse, repeat. And this comes back to the darkness, the dullness in the game visually. You combine the visual dullness with the story dullness. It's the first time that I have played. I am playing the game, and I was playing the game just before I came online to do this with you. And I was in a dungeon, and I was like, "Shit! I wish I could pause, log out, and come back," because I got to the end, and I was just about to kill this big sea wretch thing that I found in a pirate's ship, and it hit me, and it knocked me back through the blocking barrier and reset the whole fucking thing. So it's like it's 10 to 12 and I now have to go back and re-kill this thing because I know otherwise I've wasted 25 minutes of my life. So I do that, but I'm only doing it because I'm now in bloody minded mode. I'm going to complete the game. I don't know if I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to get my necro up as far as possible, but the necro skill tree, I mean, once you've got your golem, because I always start off whenever I play a Diablo game, I play with a necro because I love to build my little armies. But the golem and the mages and the skeletons, the skeleton soldiers, I mean, I've maxed them out. They don't seem to be really super powerful. Everything, they've obviously tweaked the game where as you progress, everything levels up around you. So there's no going back to, it's like, oh, I've gone at this level, got my ass kicked. I'm going to go back. I'm going to work myself up. And then, oh, this is leveled up with me. And that to me is irksome and vexing because, I'm happy to do the grind. I'm happy to explore all the little side quests and the dungeons. But it just, there's nothing spectacular about Diablo 4. It's all right. It's not awful. It's just perhaps a layer above bland. It is very repetitive, and people say, but it's Diablo. Diablo's repetitive. But it was way more enjoyable to be repetitive in the first 3 games than it is this time around for me.
I'm with you.
I mean, I like the ultimate powers. I like to being able to drop a whole bunch of skeletons in on bad guys, but then obviously there's no way that when I level it up, there's no way to the cooldowns don't get quicker. Which because the cooldowns are really they're quite ridiculous on the ultimate powers, and the fact that you have to use one of the 4 1 to 4 buttons, 1 to 4 keypad, the numbers 1 to 4 on the keyboard. Because again, perhaps there's a nod to making things easier for the PC people that your ultimate power now takes the slot of something that you would have had before. And if you want to build a golem, and you have to assign that to another slot, as opposed to just building, hitting a button to build your golem and then having 4 actual attack options as a necro. You don't. You have 2. One, and then you have 1 for your ultimate power, 1 to build either a golem or your skeletons, if that's the way you want to play. And it just, this is where some of the console stuff has come in, and it's not really helped. It has dumbed it down to a lot of degrees. The inventory management, the stuff it's dropping, I go into a dungeon, and the dungeons are chintzy. They are tight when it comes to the loot nowadays. The money drops aren't what they used to be. Perhaps they want to make it more of an event when they drop something that's actually usable as a piece of kit. Because when it does, that I see that orange glow of something dropping, I'm like, finally, because I'm sick of, trying to get by on my old orange stuff because the yellow stuff is not worth upgrading. And it's obviously so expensive to do anything in the game. You want to transfer an aspect, that'll be 50,000 gold. You want to repair everything, that's 30,000 gold. You want to do this, that, and the other. It's all money that's coming out of your thing, and you're not selling as much stuff as you used to because you're breaking them down through either the aspects if they're gold, or for materials if they're yellows, blues, or even just basic bitch stuff. So generating cash is really hard. I mean, I've got a level 50 necro now, and I've been playing for just over a month. Not every day, obviously, but I've been playing at least two to 3 nights a week. And I should be much higher up. I should be much deeper into the end game. And the other thing is, the way they've done this, the chapters feel all over the place. Do you remember in Diablo 3, you'd complete a chapter and it's like, yes, I've completed that chapter. Now I'm off to an area that's significantly different. And now I'm just doing these things hodgepodge, willy-nilly. So it's like, here's a chapter 4 and a chapter 3, and there's a chapter 2 thing here. What am I doing? I'm slowly clearing them up. And it just feels like
the pacing is not great.
It's not good. The fact that, I've got, I did a pre-order, so I've got an epic mount waiting for me. Or when do I get my epic mount? My horse I can run around? When I've completed chapter fucking 4. I mean, it is. There's just so many decisions in a game that's taken 10 years to make that just boggle my mind. I wonder if it's just come down to decision by committee, because I know what it's like at software development teams. At some point when a game is this big, you get afraid to make a decision. So we'll go, all right, well, we're going to focus test this. So I'm putting this thing out here and we'll vote on it democratically or whatever, but I'm going to do it so I can hide in the group. I'm not going to stand head and shoulders and say we need to provide some direction here, because it just feels like Diablo by committee. Diablo 4.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, you think?
Possibly. Who knows? Too much pressure that this has to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. I made this comment on Twitter after I played it for about a week. Diablo 4 feels like when I played the iPad version, the mobile version, it feels like that version was the beta test for Diablo 4. There's a lot of stuff in that mobile version that's come through into the 4 version, and I enjoyed the mobile version. Don't get me wrong. I think it controls very well. For a free game, I don't have a problem with the store. I haven't bought anything in the store, but I'm playing it for free. That I don't have a problem when you drop a store on day one. And I've played it several times, and I've run the bounties. I played it more than several times. I got like 4 different characters because I'm exploring all that stuff. And that to me is fun. That's not what I expect on a $60, $70, $80, $100 plus game, to play this version that feels way too similar for comfort to a free fucking game on the iPad. So it's not awful, but it, by any stretch of the imagination, is it great? The storyline's bland. The combat is just, I mean, I'm clicking, like I said, I'm clicking it now out of bloody mindedness to finish it. And on Friday, I bought a game called Dave the Diver on Steam. I think it's also on the Switch. And I wanted it because I wanted a little change from the dreariness of Diablo. And I gotta say, maybe it's because I've just gone for, it's like having, just weak ass broth for a week in the hospital as your food, to actually being given sushi or an orange or something with color and zest to it. Dave the Diver is one of the best $17.99 I've ever spent with regards to a game. It's totally batshit. It's retro looking. It's very silly in a lot of ways. You run a sushi joint, you're diving for fish, you've got all these other things. It's a mishmash of different gaming types. And it's the total palate cleanser I need after playing Diablo 4. And I never thought I'd say this about a Blizzard game. I really didn't. And I'm kind of I'm just disappointed that for the money that was paid and the hype behind it and the reviews are like, oh, 8, 9, 10s, 8, 9. It's like, oh, bro, it's great. Blah, blah. No, this game is.
So are you a 7?
At best, it's a 7.
Okay.
At best, it's a 7, because Diablo 3, way more fun. Diablo 3 had better classes, it had more variety, right. It had a more interesting storyline, it had the proper chapters. And look, it's every company's prerogative to change things up and how they want to do it, and everybody's got different visions.
So question for you, Paul. Some of Marcus's complaints were that this was too console-y and dumbed down. You gave the game a 9 out of 10, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And you should check it out on paulsemel.com. But
I mean, yeah,
do you like the game because it's more console-like?
No, not necessarily. My experience with it seems to be very different than Marcus's. I mean, it is redundant to the same way that every video game is somewhat redundant. But I find, especially because I'm trying to find other things to do, that it makes the redundancies less so. Because like you have these like random like occurrences in the world, and like all of a sudden you're like, you got to follow a snake around while fighting other people, or you have to like, there's a bad guy and he's sucking the strength out of his minions, and you got to stop him, and then you have like they're not dungeons, they're like little caves that you go into and you get into like these.
But they all look the same. There's like 4 different variations of that particular of the little caves or the basements or anything. There's 4 variations of them, maybe even 3. They all look the fucking same. The things may change up. There's probably about 8 different variations inside that, but they all are the same. And it's like,
well, I did run into one that was a puzzle. Did you run into that one?
I haven't run into the puzzle one yet.
Yeah, there's one that's, I don't know if there's just the one or if there's a series. I've only seen it once, where there's like, basically there's a square and there's fire pots on the 4 corners and in the 4 middles and in the middle of the thing, and you have to ignite all the fire pots. But like what it does is, like, if you do the left corner, it turns on the 2 next to it. But if someone turns it, but like if you hit a different one, it turns them off. And I'm sure that somebody was done this.
I hate those type of puzzles. So thank you. If I see 4 pots, I'm out the fucking door now.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's like a classic Portal puzzle, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I do.
All right, so I'm going to take it up to 7 variations, maybe on 4 different locations.
I will say this: I agree with you guys about the story, but then again, I've never cared about the story in Diablo because it's always seemed like generic Tolkien-esque fantasy, and I read a lot of fantasy and much better fantasy, so I don't need to get my fantasy from the game. That game is really, really long. And I know it's illegal for a game critic to say a game is too long, but the game is too long.
It is not illegal because, I mean, let's look at another game that was too long. Redfall. Redfall should have been a bunch of fun, but Redfall, way too long on that single player. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm happy to have, I mean, with Diablo, give me 10 to 12 hours of really great single player gameplay, and then let me off into the multiplayer wilds to the season passes and stuff. If I choose, I'll happily pay my money. Give me that, any game. Give me 8 to 12 hours. Let's go back to the Harry Potter Hogwarts game. Fun game, but when you're 60 hours in and you're trying to complete absolutely everything, it just becomes a fucking chore. And I didn't pay for that game. I got sent a code. I was very lucky. Hashtag blessed.
Well, I think that people sometimes forget that you can play a game more than once. You know, that if you play a 10-hour game and you only play it once, you got 10 hours out of it. But if you play it 3 times, you got 30 hours out of it.
And not only that, Diablo is a game that's always been geared to multiple playthroughs. Why? Because you got multiple fucking characters to play. You all character types. It's like, once I finished on this one, I want to try the sorcerer, then I want to try the druid, then I want to try the barbarian. I mean, you know, I want to try all the characters. I want to do a full build out of every single character. And then, you know, that to me is part of the enjoyment. But I don't know if I can churn through this stuff again, which is why I'm trying to do as much of the stuff with my first character with regards to the side quests, increasing my renown in the area, unlocking the bonuses and everything. So the next time I can focus mainly on the main quest. I mean, I may not play this for another freaking 6 years.
Well, that's what I was going to say is if this was like an annual series or like, you know, semi-annual, I wouldn't feel any need to play it a second time. The only reason I'm going to play this like a second time or a third time is because it's going to be another 12 years before we get Diablo 5.
Yeah, and we won't even get expansion packs. They don't do those anymore. And if they did, I don't think I'd be interested because this is so slow. And it just trudges. It just trudges along. And it's a shame because
for all of you and for anyone watching live or on the replay, why did you pick the class you chose for your initial character? Marcus, you play Necro. Paul, I'm guessing you went Barbarian. So what attracted you to those classes?
Right. Well, for me, for Necro, I love, to do the range attacks. I'm not a big run-in, bash everything kind of guy. I like to sit back with my, my golem. And every single Diablo game, I've always played as, where it's possible, I've played as the Necro. I love getting my golem up there and my skeletons and sitting back with my ranged sorcerers and just creating havoc. And then, my current build is also heavy on corpse explosion. So I'll hit them with drain, they generate corpses, and then they also drop health pots, although you can only carry 7 health pots right now, or at level 50. I mean, I don't know how many it goes up to, but the health pot issue is always something.
I can carry 9.
Okay, so you're further down the line.
And I'm level 55.
I'm 50, and I'm halfway through my first Paragon run, or my first Paragon build, if you will, with regards to, you know, being 50 and just getting those Paragon points every 4 parts of the level. So yeah, I'll hit the corpse explosion and create this cloud of toxic gas, much like me after K-barbecue. And that's how I do it. I stand back and I just let people rot. But I mean, that's again one of the issues I have with the dullness, is that it's not as visceral as it used to be. It's not popping, it's not gorgeously gory, and the graphics have improved. They've improved, as we know, out of all the recognition from the first one, and you know, probably even 3. But that is one of my issues. If I'm doing a corpse explosion, I want to see rich red blood everywhere. Instead, I've got this dull. You know, even the greens, the greens from the poison are not good. The electricity, the blues are dull. It just doesn't float my boat, which is a shame.
And Paul, why barbarian?
I always play fantasy games as melee characters. I just find
I remember.
Yeah. I just find them more interesting. I just sort of I like button mashing my way to victory, basically. I mean, when I go and play it a second time, probably not Diablo because it'll be 5 years, but like in other games, I will sometimes go back and play a different character. I did it with Dragon Age, where I forget what the second character was, but it was definitely not the melee character. So yeah, I just like being able to run around and smack people.
Much like in real life.
Yeah.
Ray?
I went with the rogue. And probably from an effectiveness standpoint is definitely not the best choice.
Does the rogue have a bow?
Yeah, you can do melee and backstab, which is what I enjoy doing. Sometimes I like the hiding in the shadows, doing a big triple damage backstab. Sometimes I like just shooting away. Diablo 3, I was all about Demon Hunter, so you know you could kind of see what I enjoy.
Demon Hunter was awesome.
Yeah, I really
Demon Hunter is probably my favorite class of all time outside of I mean, obviously, like I said, I played Necro, but Demon Hunter, the fact that there's no Demon Hunter this time around makes me a little sad.
Carlos says backstabbing is his move. We know this.
I just wanted to go back to the comment by King N64.
Yes, this one.
Thoughts on how other players are interacting with you in the overworld? Personally, not a big fan of that. I have, again, been playing for a month. 0 interaction with anybody. No invites to guilds. No invites to parties. People are on their horses galloping around, or people will, you know, the closest it's come to any interaction is if I'm fighting something and somebody of a higher level runs past, they might just help me beat something, and before I can even hit the emote wheel to say thank you, they're off. That's it. And from that, and look, I'm with King on this one. Party, if I'm playing on a party with my friends, and apparently, you know, I'm going to have to play with you fuckers now. That's fine by me. But yeah, I mean, I don't need to be part of a Diablo 4 community.
Are we all playing primarily single player?
Yeah, I am. I haven't played any single player stuff.
I don't play with other people.
Yeah.
Paul does not play.
But the funny thing to me is again, my experience in Diablo is very different. Like normally, like I get annoyed, like when I would play Destiny and I would be fighting somebody and somebody would run in and kill him and then run away, I'd be like, dude, stay out of my fight. And in this one, I don't mind so much. I don't know why. And I've also found a lot people, I always forget to do it, but like if like I come across like somebody in a big fight and I join in and help out, like they'll give me like a thank you, or you know, something like, hey, whatever. And I always forget that there's that emote wheel and like to do stuff. But people I found have been way more friendly. I will say this though about the emote wheel. I think it's weird that they added things to do with it that are mission based.
It's kind of funny. So
it was
here's my
funny
issue.
like the first time, but like when you realize that there's these like
There's the statues you interact with. I actually did one just before. Yeah,
like
I said thank you to the
statue,
statue, and the next thing I attacked was supposed to rain gold, and it dropped 400 gold. I'm like, gee, thanks. Fuck off.
Do you need a loan? Because I have a lot of gold.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm struggling to hit beyond 600,000 gold, because again, everything yellow I've had, every bit of loot, I have been just recycling or stripping the aspects from it, because some of the aspects are really awesome on the legendary stuff, and I do like that. That you strip that stuff and drop it in. So yeah, I mean, it's it is what it is. Though, like I said, they're tighter than a duck's ass when it comes to the gold.
I've
the duck's
got
ass
more money than I know what to do with, and more resources than I can ever possibly spend.
Hello, Mr. Moneybags.
I've lost count of the resources. I'm happy to collect all the resources, but again, I'm collecting all these resources, and it's like 25,000 gold to go and create a really good potion, because all the potion drops are shite. I mean, you've dropped a weak potion of incontinence. Well, I'd rather have the big potion of the big one, thank you. And it just goes back to, again, it's rather chintzy. It can't seem to decide if it wants to go the Borderlands route, where it's going to give you all this different loot, and more often than not, there's a gun or something that you're going to stick with for the next 30 levels, and you'll keep upgrading it because you can only upgrade 4 times. And that's where stripping the aspect comes in.
Yeah.
Or it's back to old school Diablo, where it was a really good mix of stuff that actually made a difference. But now it's much of a muchness. It's just like, so I can take a tiny incremental increase on this one, and there's a decrease on that one, and it's just, I feel like I need to have a inside baseball style spreadsheet to figure out all the actual pluses and minuses.
That's how I play games.
But I mean, exactly. We shouldn't have to. If you show me something, I want to know, is it better than what I'm currently got?
Right.
And if it isn't, fine, I'll recycle it. If it is, well, great. I'll go and strip the aspect and drop that aspect onto this one, and off I go again. But this game seems to be, it's fallen much like a drunken man in a bar at 3 a.m. in the morning. It's falling between all the stools. It's not hitting any of the targets, much like the same drunken man, but this time in the toilet. It's not hitting any of the urinals, which is a real shame for such a vaunted, this is obviously just my opinion, for a vaunted franchise and a vaunted dev team. And who knows, maybe, obviously we should talk about the elephant in the room, which is the Microsoft proposed buyout.
Yes. One more question about the game before we get to the macro level stuff. And this goes on some of what Marcus talked about before in terms of pacing and story. One of the biggest complaints I've seen on my Facebook and Twitter feed is that they felt the pacing was too rushed, and the game was pushing you to do more end game stuff as soon as possible. Did you guys get that sense, or was that just not your experience?
No, I would have liked to have to push me towards that end game. I mean, I've been doodling along, like I said, for the best part of a month, going, all right, where am I going now? Oh, look, it's more beige. Oh, it's dark, but it's beige. And that's what I've been doing. I've been looking for those little blue check marks.
Yeah.
Because all the exclamation points to see if there's anything interesting. Or, all right, well, what's in this particular dungeon? Is it something that's good? And the fact that the dungeon, I mean, I will give a point of credit here. The fact that the dungeons now say, complete this one, and this is for a necromancer, and you will unlock this aspect. And I'm like, yes, I'm down with that. That is great. I would prefer that it says, all right, well, this person started with necromancer. This is their character. So therefore, we're going to go and do every single dungeon keyed towards a necromancer. And so people get the loot and they get the power-ups and they can do the stuff. They can still unlock the renown points to boost up the strength, the level, the skill points, and everything else that you do. So I think that's a great idea too. But then the next time I go through with a barbarian or with a rogue or a sorcerer or a druid, I know that one of these things that I do, I'm going to get something specific to my character, and therefore I've got a somewhat different experience when I'm churning through this fucking game for the second time, which will probably be around the same time as Paul. In my case, I'll be doing it from hell because I'll be dead.
So, Paul, with that, how did you feel about the pacing?
I don't know why you think they have broadband in hell.
It just
well, I mean, I guess thanks to Biden, they will. But you know,
I honestly think that hell is going to be a lot more fun. I think hell just has a bad PR rap. I watched Lucifer on the Neil Gaiman's vision of Lucifer on Fox. That's the sort of devil I want to hang out with. Because let's face it, you go upstairs, it's going to be full of some
that guy was charming as fuck.
But he quit though. He quit running hell.
Also Welsh.
Went to Los Angeles.
Tom Ellis, Welshman. We all make great devils. Or diavol.
Man.
Diavol is Welsh for devil. So there you go. Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, I'm gonna disagree with that one, considering the amount of mediocre loot that's dropping and how much I have to turn into various other aspects. Yeah. I'm happy with one square. I am so happy. I still would be happier if we could have a loot, a jewel bag or a jewel sack to make you two snigger one more time.
Sack for your jewels.
A sack for my jewels. I want to keep my big shiny jewels in there. I do miss having a fucking sidekick to send back to town. Because that would be great. It's like, I'm going to give you all this crap and off you go. So yeah.
Marcus mentioned the big possible Microsoft acquisition, but before that, I mean, there was a time pre-Activision where for a lot of gamers, Blizzard was the best publisher. The games were phenomenal. They treated the gamers phenomenally well, and many would say that is not the case anymore since the Activision acquisition.
As somebody who worked at Vivendi, when it was Vivendi Games, which was which I was a part of, with the legends that were Matt Frary and Pete Wannett and Greg Goodrich and a bunch of other people, and then our sister company was Blizzard, and we were never together, even though they would always end up with probably slightly more of our booth at E3 because they were who they were, but we were never allowed to reach out to the PR team, especially as this PR team, to say, "Oh, can we do something together? We're going to do this. Do you want to buy in, or do you want to give me a World of Warcraft code to let me play and not have to pay for?" I had to pay $14.95 for my own World of Warcraft account the entire time I worked at Vivendi. $14.95 a month, which was just cruel. But I did just find all my unopened collector's editions, because there was a wonderful person who worked at Vivendi, Angelina Coley, not to be confused with Jolie, who made sure that I got a collector's edition every time, and it was all them still shrink wrapped, perfect condition. And I just recently found them when we cleared out our garage. So,
how did you feel about Blizzard then, and how has that changed?
You're right. I mean, they had great stuff. I mean, they had 3-4 franchises. They had WoW, they had Warcraft, which was different. They had StarCraft, and then they had Diablo. Those were the 4 franchises. And obviously StarCraft has sort of like dropped by the wayside. Warcraft has dropped by the wayside. World of Warcraft is just, I mean, again, that game is now 15, 16, 17 years old.
Right.
Who knows, maybe even 20 years old. We haven't seen a sequel. Diablo is taking 10 years to get updated. StarCraft Ghosts never saw the light of day. And you got to wonder. I mean, maybe they feel that they are on a par with Rockstar Games. and all they need to do is one game a decade. But Rockstar, they do a game every 5 years. You know, they've got Red Dead and they've got GTA, and you know, and then they also branch out with Bully and Rockstar Table Tennis. But again, we haven't seen any sequels to those. I'd love to see a new Bully game, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't know what's going on. I mean, this is a game that doesn't feel like 10 years in the making. It feels like one that, like I said, it got over-seasoned, overcooked, too many cooks, like you said earlier. And this is where I think if this Activision Blizzard buyout by Microsoft comes to pass, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Microsoft have been mostly hands-off with Bethesda. It'll be interesting to see how that would happen with Blizzard, and would they actually, because Microsoft need the content. We know Microsoft need the content. Would it be a smart move? Would they give Blizzard, you know, the kick up the ass it needs? Would they lose all the talent? Is the talent even still there? Would they help bring in some new talent to help streamline and revitalize the studio? Because it feels like Blizzard feels like Paul McCartney right now, where hit after hit with the Beatles, went solo, did Wings, hit after hit after hit, had a banging 80s, early 90s, bunch of stuff, you know, some dubious, you know, duets like Ebony and Ivory, for God's sake.
That's better than
now
the Jackson one.
But then it's become a case of just churning out the same or slight variations on a theme. It's like it's okay, but it's not something you can really, you know, you really want to cross the road to watch, listen to, or you know, play. I mean, I miss the thrill of, you know, of booting up Diablo. Diablo 3 was a thrill when I first bought it, and when I played through, got through the entire thing, it was a thrill because it was so bright in certain places, dark in the other places, and that counterbalance made things pop, and it was so gory. The music was great, the characters were varied, and now it just...
Right. You use the term kick in the ass for Blizzard, but I think it's the opposite. I think what they need is more freedom. To have less hands-on.
So you think this is you think this is Activision? The Activision greasy fingers?
That's the only change I can see over time as what I consider Blizzard a declining Blizzard. Not that it's a bad publisher. Obviously, they're still tremendously successful, but prior to Activision,
you may have a point there, because at the end of the day, Activision has gone from making a bunch of really cool stuff. I mean, let's not forget they were one of the first to market with the toy stuff in Skylander,
right?
And they had a bunch of stuff. You know, when they
Tony Hawk,
you know, merged with Vivendi. There was games that were still put out there. Prototype, what's it? Crash Bandicoot, and to see all that they do now is Call of Duty. Every year. I mean, it really is quite depressing. So maybe it is that, oh, Blizzard, you're going to be just like us now. Only you're going to take 10 years to do a game.
Right.
While we, in that 10-year period, we're going to churn out 10 different variations on Call of Duty. Which is, you know, it's sad. It is sad. And I understand it costs a lot more to make a video game than ever. And we've just been through a global pandemic. But if you stop giving less money to the shareholders and start pumping it more into innovation, into game designers, into varied teams, make the smaller projects. I mean, why aren't Activision, EA, and a bunch of others finding out people like, you know, the crew that did Dave the Diver and pulling that on board and sticking that out? Why aren't they getting into this market? It goes back to almost like the music biz. And Paul, you'll know this is a big, you know, music fan. I know Ray, you are too, but I'm just the whole A&R days of signing the indie bands, putting a bit of money behind them, and making them explode. There is just everybody's just playing it so fucking safe in games, except for the indie devs. And that's why, like I said, Dave the Diver is way more fun, and it cost me a 1/5, less than 1/5 of what Diablo has.
Right. Well,
that's just the sad state of affairs there. And it's just, again, a damning indictment on where the games industry is going, because you look at the money that's being eaten up. It's Diablo, it's FIFA, it's fucking Fortnite, which, again, is to original gameplay what my ass is to a beauty pageant.
So for those kinds of games like Day of the Diver, the console manufacturers actually do a pretty good job of cultivating. So I think Sony was the forerunner in that, followed by Microsoft. Our friend Chris Charla has done a wonderful job there, and Nintendo's
Games Pass has been really good for it.
Yeah, it has.
Games Pass is really good for picking up some of that stuff. Fair dues. What's the vampire game that won Game of the Year? And it's just
right. Yeah.
But again, that was a great game. I first played it on Games Pass. Played it a bit, loved it. But like, I mean,
Nobody Saves the World.
Hades,
yeah, that's another.
I mean, that was another great one. And so it's funny that the top 5 companies, if you will, of third party have just seemed to have lost the plot to a certain degree. They're not taking chances. They're not prepared to put everything, or put money into, cool new ventures. And I mean, we've got this chance now after the pandemic where you don't need to have $100 million campuses everywhere.
Right.
People are working from home. Let them work from home. Pull in the indies. Let them work from home. Have bring on, you look at the work Devolver's still doing. Devolver Digital. Their stuff, they get behind every single game. Some of it's utter tosh. A lot of it's really fun and silly. And I think, again, these companies are like, because if it's not going to make, $200 million profit, we're not interested. I think you're missing the essence of what really games are about and what games can be. It's not about fucking loot boxes. It's not about cosmetics. It's not about having to create a new character every time a season pass starts.
Sure, but I mean, Bobby's job is to maximize shareholder value,
and like I said before, fuck the shareholders. This is why we have the biggest disparity between the top 1% and anybody else below that. I mean, anybody in the middle working class, I mean, you are fucked because of the likes of this. This is rampant capitalism, and it's destroying how we consume the things that we can enjoy.
Sure.
And it's just bullshit.
Well,
we could be doing so much better as an industry.
They've also just forgotten that, like, every big game had a first game, was an original game. You wouldn't have Call of Duty, whatever the hell the new one is, without the first Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I
don't even know which version of Call of Duty they're on now. What is it? Modern Warfare 36?
Yeah.
But I mean, they've taken the it's basically the Marvel and Disney way of looking at things now. Everything either has to be a remake, a live action remake, or we've got these phases, and it's like, Iron Man was a breath of fresh air, and phase 1 through 4 of the Marvel movies, we've had this discussion. They were great. They were varied. Yes, they plugged into a bigger theme. They culminated in Endgame, and that was fantastic. And then since then.
But Paul, let's get your thoughts on what Blizzard was, how Activision changed them, and whether getting acquired by Microsoft would be better or worse, in your opinion.
I think getting acquired by Microsoft would be better, because it is not a secret that Activision and Blizzard don't get along. That Blizzard has resented certain things that Activision have forced upon them. And I think that everybody knows that. Whether they'll admit they know it or not, we don't care. But I think that if this deal goes through, and it's not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination, I think that Microsoft will look at it and go, okay, we're going to split Activision and Blizzard apart. That Blizzard, we're going to take Blizzard, and it's going to be its own company, sub-company, if you will, again, and Activision will be its own thing, and whatnot. I also think that it'll be good, because I think that Microsoft will look at it and say, okay, let's do another StarCraft. You've got these franchises. Let's get something going with them. I think they're going to do that with Activision. I think they're going to look at Activision and go, is there anything we can do with Pitfall? Is there anything that we can do with like some of these classic games? Because aside from Crash Bandicoot and Call of Duty, Activision doesn't do anything anymore.
Well, that's the
that's
the point I made. But
yeah, they're not alone in that, because EA is the same way. You guys remember we used to go to EA events and they'd be like, "Here's the 30 games we have coming out over the next year."
Yeah.
And
why don't we get a Jungle Strike, Desert Strike, Urban Strike reboot? Where's Road Rage? Yeah. Road Rage was such a classic game, but it crapped out sometime in the PS1 era.
Right.
I remember Road Rage on the 3DO, and it was the first time with the cinematics.
Well, it goes back to the shareholders. Unfortunately, they're afraid to take risks. I remember one of my favorite Activision games for PS2 was Wakeboarding Unleashed, and it's very Tony Hawkish, but obviously you're on a lake instead of the street.
But I think
they wouldn't make that game today.
No, but one thing I think that might help is the Crash Bandicoot situation, because they basically were like, okay, we're going to do these like slightly updated, upgraded versions of the first 3 games. We're going to put them out as an inexpensive package, and it sold like gangbusters. And now they started making original games with Crash, that have also done very well because it rekindled the interest in it. And I think that's what Microsoft might consider doing. Like, they might
remasters of all their IP would be amazing. Prototype would be a really fun remaster.
That's an idea, or they might go to Blizzard and say, let's do a StarCraft, but let's do something small and we'll do it for Game Pass. And then you have people who get hooked on it.
Let's redo StarCraft 2, remaster StarCraft 2 and the expansions.
Yeah. Let's
do that and slap it on Game Pass for PC or whatever. That would be great. That would absolutely do it really well. The other thing is, and there's, this is just something that's out of left field and just really sort of like kicked into my head. Wouldn't it be, it probably wouldn't be even feasible, but I'm just seeing StarCraft and Obsidian, not necessarily the sort of like, real-time strategy game, but the StarCraft universe, Obsidian RPG. That might be something really cool, although it's probably Starfield. But again, they could cross-pollinate. And look, trust me, this is how I used to work when I worked at developers and publishers, and this is why half the time they'd look at me like I was fucking losing my mind. But yeah, I would love to see a prototype remaster or even a sequel. I thought it was a great original game. There's a whole back catalog from all the companies that Activision acquired over the years. Blizzard's back catalog. When I was at Ubisoft, they were on a buying spree that is only perhaps been equaled by Embracer, and now and they bought all these brands: SSI, Microprose, Blue Byte, and you don't see any of the games, any of the back catalogs anymore. You don't see this stuff that perhaps wouldn't take a shit ton of money to produce. You see Far Cry 28 or Division 4 or Assassin's Creed. Where's Redstone? Where's our fucking Splinter Cell? Why aren't we getting to see these games that and they could all stand to be remastered.
Right.
A Splinter Cell remaster of every Splinter Cell game up on Games Pass or for $99.99. Boom. Take my money.
Yeah. But although let's not let the public off without a warning, because they're the ones who keep buying these things. There was a thing this week where people were talking in the FCC Activision discussion. Apparently, there are people who only buy consoles to play Call of Duty. That's literally all they play.
But that's not the vast majority. That's not even if that's 50% of gamers. There are so many games that you could stick out remaster that they could work on a modern laptop or on the Steam Deck or on the Switch. The Switch in particular could be a great way to drop a bunch of stuff because, let's face it, it's woefully dated hardware. You could put a bunch of stuff on there that hasn't been seen before, and it would run better than the original versions. You don't have to put $100 million behind every single game.
Yeah.
And then you're out there and you've got these different titles. You stick them on Steam. You stick them, you cross-platform them. You put them on Games Pass, or you sell them for $19.99. You could have, generate the revenue because you don't have to make as much money to make back the revenue.
Well, I think the financial success of Resident Evil 4 is going to help things a bit. I think the commercial and the critical success of that game. The same thing with Dead Space, I think, is going to help. This person just mentioned the Metal Gear Solid. There's a lot of excitement for that. If they do it well, I think that could help. There is an audience out there for it, especially
there's a bunch of people who weren't even born when the first couple of Metal Gear games came out, and now they're excited for it. Ditto Resident Evil. We've seen the remakes coming through. The KOTOR remakes. Why don't we have a KOTOR 3? Where's that? That would be fantastic. Knights of the Old Republic. The Old Republic RPG. We've talked about this before. Where's the sequel to that? If you want to be in this always online universe, why can't these games be in this always online universe with season passes and XYZ without that $14.99 a month charge? Same with World of Warcraft. These things are, there's so much gaming content that can be mined and brought up to speed, and we can still have the cool original stuff. The only place we are getting cool original content is from the indie devs, and it's been like this for probably the last 15 years.
I agree, but I like Paul's point about let's not let the gamers off the hook, because people aren't buying those.
Know what they want until they are shown what's cool, and this is the problem.
Well, they do know what they want because look at what they're buying.
Yeah, but the media doesn't exist in the way it used to, where you'd see people like Paul or yourself writing about cool games, or me doing the video stuff. And like, this is a little bit out of left field. You'd enjoy it. You see game trailers or IGN. Now all they do is churn out the same stuff because the media has been stripped bare by the shareholders yet again. And evolution of TikTok and Instagram and the fucking influencer has basically devolved everything to the lowest hanging fruit. We have become a Walmart society.
We have.
Where it's really depressing because the music, music has gotten a little better because, again, it did a lot of good things.
Well, discovery is different for music.
Yeah, the discovery is different. But at the end of the day, I am so the fact that some fucking games influencers just signed $100 million deal to stream with something called Kick.
Yeah.
That person has no compunction to be anything, to be honest about any fucking game they're asked to promote. All it's concerned is like a sports endorsement, like a sports athlete endorsing something, or a movie star. Do you remember the days when movie stars wouldn't do commercials in the US, but they do them in Japan?
Oh yeah,
you never see them.
Yeah.
And that still happens today, but it's exactly the same thing now. We are looking at these people who are shilling. They don't believe in what they're shilling. It's all about the dollar at the end of the day. And
but
I've
again,
said this,
you have to put some of the blame on the viewers.
If they don't get but if there's no system to deliver them the cool stuff, because we have perhaps way too much choice now.
Yeah,
I am guilty of not watching movies as many different movies as I should.
Right.
That I used to do. I'll go to the movies for the big blockbuster
but
stuff.
At the same time,
we're
talking about Diablo 4, where why don't we pick like 3? Why don't each of us pick like an indie game for an episode or something and give those kind of developers and publishers a spotlight?
Absolutely. I'm down to do that.
We should do that. think we
I'm
should.
totally happy to talk it. Like I said, Dave the Diver, love it. I think it's super fun for $17.99. Can't go wrong.
When you first said the name of the game with your accent, I thought it was Day of Godiva. I'm like, do we eat chocolates the whole game? I'm like,
chocolate.
I'm down with this. Like,
but yeah, I mean, we need to educate each other. But I mean, obviously, we have. I don't think anybody has.
Yeah, Marcus hates Nintendo. Carlos,
oh, that's that
you
fucking
should know
Zelda.
that.
Look, I am happy that people are loving Zelda, and but again, this is a prime issue. This is an example of what Paul just said, where the gaming public is culpable. Because at the end of the day, if you own a Switch, you will buy every iteration of Mario, every iteration of Zelda, every iteration of Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, and Metroid that come out for that fucking console. And the Nintendo fan is just as culpable as the PlayStation and Xbox fans who only play Modern Warfare or Call of Duty. And I will dare, sir.
Yeah.
I will dare, because at the end of the day, people are like, "Oh, this is the greatest game ever," and blah blah blah. And I will disagree. I will disagree without even playing it, because I know that it's got performance issues down to the hardware. It's running.
Hey, it happens to every guy. Oh, for those kind of performance.
Hey, you're talking to somebody who's on testosterone deprivation. I mean, I've had performance issues for the last 4 years. But my point is that this game, if it wasn't Zelda and wasn't Nintendo, would get raked over its performance issues, the lag, the jagginess, the frame rate dropping, because it's on an obsolete piece of tech when you compare it to what's out there right now. I mean, it's like, comparing the Game Boy to the PS3. That's, these things evolve, the tech evolves, and Nintendo will be dropping their latest and greatest, and at some point. But every single gamer should try and sit outside their wheelhouse and just try and buy one thing outside your wheelhouse a year. That would be my challenge to you.
Yeah,
play something, whether it be on Xbox Game Pass, PC Game Pass, the PlayStation equivalent, or I don't know if Nintendo even does anything like it, because, like I said, I haven't fired up my Switch in so long. I've probably got 3 months worth of.
We'll do our part too. We'll all pick a small developer game and talk about it on this show. And give those guys this.
Look, it doesn't have to be a small developer game. It can be a mid-size. It can be whatever. I mean, we can actually go in and critique something like the last Saints Row game. How much money was spaffed onto that to ruin a perfectly fun mid-size franchise?
Yeah.
I mean,
I find myself wishing that the games industry and also the film industry kind of had the attitude that the book publishing industry has a lot of times, which is they publish, things like Stephen King and James Patterson because they know that it's going to make a lot of money.
Right.
And then they set some of that money aside to publish little things,
like Sean Foster. That guy's awesome.
John Foster. Jay Foster.
They'll basically, like, not that it doesn't really pan out this way, but like they'll publish like a Call of Duty so they can then do this game that Marcus likes, Bob the Builder.
Dave the Diver.
Yeah.
Dave the Diver. I mean, he even looks like me, but with slightly better coloring in his beard.
Right. I wish that's what I wish that they were doing. Like, I wish, like, it'd be cool if like Activision was like, okay, every year Call of Duty, we're going to make $1 gazillion. And so we're also going to put out like 3 little fun games they won't come out physically. They'll only come out digitally, and they're $10 and blah, blah, blah. And there we go.
You are 100% right. And I think this is where it's funny. The book industry was the one that was at most peril from the digitization of things. I mean, we can talk about the record industry and how they've turned around things pre-Napster, but the book industry has made it so, as a book fan. I mean, I've got, books everywhere, not quite as many as Paul, but the fact that I can buy and read a book instantly, digitally, through the Apple bookstore or Kindle or whatever is so cool. And I can take that chance on somebody that I haven't read before in a genre that I, perhaps is a little alien to me, but it sounds quite cool. And it's only going to cost me maybe $10.
or even lower if it's on sale.
Even lower. I mean, it's the price of 2 lattes and a sausage sandwich.
Jim asks, "What is the schedule of this podcast moving forward?"
That's a very good question, Jim.
The answer is whenever we damn feel like.
I mean, mostly
Sundays a lot.
Yeah, mostly Sundays at noon Pacific Standard Time because this is what we do. This we're all busy men, and we have so many commitments. No, and look, sometimes we'll talk about games, sometimes we'll talk about movies, sometimes we'll talk about soccer. We will have our transfer window roundup come August 31st.
But if you follow us on Twitter, you will get or Facebook or YouTube, you will get a notification.
Yeah, and also just follow these guys as well as I'm guessing you already follow me, Jim, because I think you came through from my YouTube channel. So thank you. And again, so good to see everybody from my YouTube channel. Yeah. But yeah, follow us all and tag us, share us, suggest topics for us. I mean, we haven't talked about books. Maybe we'll do a book podcast at some point. Maybe we'll do a TV show one where we need to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, because I haven't started season 2 yet, because I wanted to build a 3 or 4 episode buffer. We did Ted Lasso, and that was something that was really
we did The Mandalorian with Paul. We did The
Mandalorian. We haven't even touched Secret Invasion yet.
Real quick, week, how do you guys feel about the first 2 episodes?
I don't know. Ask me next week after episode 3. I think next maybe. We should do this when it's only 6 episodes in it.
Yeah.
So I think we should probably watch the entire block and then go through it and let it tell.
We should.
I agree with that. It doesn't seem like an episode to episode kind of.
Yes. But I think next week we will be talking about everybody's favorite geriatric with a whip. And no, I'm not talking about Ray. We are talking about Indiana Jones and the Diarrhea of Destiny, or the Depends of Destiny, or whatever the hell it is. He's 80 years old and he's physically way more fit and active than all 3 of us.
I was going to say, can we not have Harrison Ford come and beat the crap out of us?
No, I think Harrison Ford. Yeah, well, he could. I mean, he's 80. He takes his shirt off in a movie. He looks great. I mean, I take my shirt off. This camera would be blinded by the white.
Or we would think of mayonnaise. No. So why don't we button up this episode with because Marcus likes us to give scores now.
We should score these things. Yes. I mean, and it's interesting because Paul's already given a score for this.
He's given
Diablo
a 9 out of 10.
He gave it a 9 out of 10, but now he's probably played it a lot more. I played it for my review and then I said, fuck off, I'm not going back to you again.
Nope, it's still a 9 out of 10. It's still going to be on my best games of the year list, which is not...
Along with Dave the Diver. Woo!
Well, along with Resident Evil and Star Wars and
Tears
Dead
of the Clown.
Space, and actually Redfall. Oddly enough, I think Redfall is like it's not properly on the list. It's like I can't think of that term. Honorable mention.
There you go.
Redfall is just a missed opportunity for me. It's in my estimation, a missed opportunity. We never talked about it, but we should do our games of the year at the end of the year. We'll do the anti-game awards. There will be no Jeff Keighley here, even though we all love and respect Jeff. All praise Jeff R.E.
So 9 out of 10 for Paul. Marcus?
I'm going to give it the 7 out of 10 because 7 out of 10 seems to be the perfectly average acceptable. But if I was going to go true Marcus, and in fact, I think I am, I'm going to give it a fucking 5 out of 10 because 5 is absolute midway. It's not great. It's not awful. It's basically quiche. It's gaming quiche.
I believe it's pronounced quiche.
I like quiche.
I like quiche too.
Would. You give quiche 9 out of 10. It is gaming quiche. You can quote me on that, Blizzard. It is bland. It's inoffensive. It's beige. The occasional nugget of goodness. But at the end of the day, it's nowhere near as good as Diablo 3. And it certainly was not worth 10 years in the waiting. If this was the last game I ever played, I'd be fucking disappointed.
Oh, damn.
I'm going to stay alive long enough to play Diablo 4. What the fuck? I should have died 4 years ago.
I will go with a 7 out of 10. Like, it's above fine, and I don't have strong emotions about it either way. I'm enjoying it, but it's not dazzling me.
It's not dazzling, but it's not awful. And this is where the 5 comes in for me. Five is an absolute middle of the road on a 10 scale, and this has always been the problem with the games industry and with media in particular on how we rate stuff.
Yes, because some people look at school grades and see a 7 out of 10 as average. Well, no, I think it should be 5.
Is average. Yes,
I agree.
So it's an average game.
I will go slightly above average. Paul loved it, and that's cool. Of course,
that is the beautiful majesticness of video games and of this particular podcast. This is why you tune into the BeeRPad TV.
Yes. And guys, if you have thoughts on Diablo 4
and girls and theys,
yes, and yes, Ezra Miller, share us your thoughts on Diablo 4 or don't. Leave a comment on the comment section below. Drop us a tweet. Go to Paul's website, paulsemel.com, and read his review of Diablo 4. It is quite vast, interesting, and intelligent, like Paul, who is also vast,
unlike anything ever uttered on this podcast.
And as Marcus said, we will come back to you probably in a week's time talking about Indiana Jones and dial soap for danger or something.
Yeah, I've tried to avoid spoilers, but thank you, LA Times, for blowing the fucking cameo in your fucking headline.
I didn't hear it.
No, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say anything about it. But I'm just going to say
I didn't even know there was a cameo.
Whoever
wrote the movie, I didn't know there was a cameo.
If the LA Times wrote a piece and it was like, oh, so and so talks about the cameo, I'm like, fuck you. The movie opened 3 days ago. This is the problem. So we will talk about Dial of Destiny because I don't get to see it until tomorrow. Actually, I'm going tomorrow afternoon because tickets were sold out this weekend. I'm glad to see the old white man doing well because obviously that's what this world needs more of: old white people making lots of money.
No, and guys, highly recommend Past Lives. See Past Lives. It's my favorite movie this year so far. Probably will be my movie of the year.
I did watch the Jennifer Lawrence No Hard Feelings. My wife and I went to see the R-rated comedy, and I gotta say, I do love the R-rated comedy. It was funny. She's brilliant in it. So's her co-star. It's totally silly. It's one of those ones that you watch. There's actually a really good message in there with regards to gentrification and the issues you get when you have a bunch of rich entitled pricks moving into an area for 3 months a year and how they fuck everything up for everybody. Again, fuck the old rich people.
So the male lead in
that, we'll watch that.
The male lead in that actually had to defer his admission into Harvard to do this movie.
He's brilliant in it. He's brilliant. He's a talented musician. He can sing, and he just does this. He plays everything so understated. And Jennifer Lawrence she's a fantastic actress. She does wonderful. The girl next door kind of thing very, very well. And she's got a wicked sense of humor and a comic turn that perhaps we haven't been able to see in a lot of her roles recently. So she's pursued more dramatic stuff after taking her step away to have a family and everything, and that's awesome for her. But we'll be back next week with Indiana Jones.
I'd love to be on that call.
What?
I'd love to be on that call. I'm like, hi, I can't go to college yet. I got to get molested by Jennifer Lawrence for a few
That would be cool. That would be cool.
Totally.
So, dial up of Destiny, eh?
Yes.
You've got Indiana Jones.
You've got Whip. And guys, thank you for watching the BeeRPad. We will see you next time. Say goodbye, Paul.
Goodbye, Paul.
Goodbye, Paul.
Bye.